Look closely at the rhythm of our lives. It is a pattern so fundamental, so deeply ingrained, that we rarely pause to consider its architecture. For many of us today, life moves at an unsustainable pace, a constant hum of blue light and urgent demands that keeps us perpetually running on fumes. We are masters of wakefulness, yet perhaps slaves to exhaustion. But strip away the noise of modernity and you confront something far more primal: the steady, predictable march of time itself. Our internal clock, the circadian rhythm, is not merely a biological suggestion. It is a profound organizational principle that dictates when we feel alert, when we are most creative, and crucially when we need to rest. For the early inhabitants who built the first complex societies, the farmers, the builders, the priests, their lives were governed by an entirely different schedule. A rhythm dictated not by alarm clocks or electric grids, but by the sun's arc across the sky. This raises a fascinating question. Was our sleep pattern merely a biological preference, or was it a foundational necessity? Did early civilization need specific, regulated cycles of wakefulness and deep rest to sustain the complex social structures they built? Before the settled village, life was defined by movement. The hunter-gatherer existence demanded adaptability, a lifestyle where sleep was not a predictable commodity but a flexible necessity. These early groups navigated an unpredictable rhythm, requiring deep restorative rest to maintain the physical stamina needed for daily survival. Their cycles were dictated by the hunt, the migration, and the immediate needs of the group. Unlike later sedentary cultures that could afford specialized routines, mobility meant sleep was always provisional. The structure of their social life, therefore, was intrinsically linked to these variable rest periods. Decisions about labor, community organization, even ritual timing, had to accommodate the unpredictable nature of exhaustion and recovery. This fluidity suggests a profound difference from the structured slumber we take for granted today, a time when biological necessity dictated the very tempo of early human culture. Archaeological evidence suggests this unscheduled rest was crucial for survival. Deep sleep allowed optimal energy conservation across vast territories. This constant state of readiness fostered highly egalitarian social structures, where individual contribution during active periods outweighed fixed roles or specialized labor. The picture began to change dramatically with the advent of agriculture. The shift from mobile hunter-gatherer life to settled farming meant a profound restructuring of human routine. No longer did survival depend solely on following migratory herds. It required cultivating specific patches of land, year after predictable year. This Neolithic revolution necessitated fixed schedules, the planting cycle, the careful tending of crops, and the critical act of harvesting. Suddenly, food wasn't found, it was stored. This newfound surplus created a deep dependency on routine and community cooperation. The need to guard these harvests, manage granaries, and predict seasonal cycles likely introduced more rigid temporal structures into daily life. Sleep itself may have become less about pure biological necessity, and more about maintaining the energy required for predictable communal labor. These fixed rhythms dictated everything from wake times to meal patterns. The community's rhythm became tied to the sun and the seasons, establishing a predictable cycle that governed sleep-wake cycles across generations. This shared temporal framework was foundational, solidifying collective timekeeping and communal dependency. The shift from nomadic life to settled agriculture demanded more than just reliable rest. It required managed energy. As communities swelled into early city-states, the management of time became an economic necessity. Suddenly, labor could no longer be dictated solely by the rising and setting of the sun. Complex societies needed precision, a way to allocate effort across dozens of individuals for tasks ranging from irrigation maintenance to monumental construction. This need gave rise to formalized timekeeping, initially linked to celestial observation but rapidly repurposed for human productivity. Sleep itself transitioned into a commodity, measured against the demands of the work cycle, and stratified by social rank. The ability to dedicate specific hours to labor, rather than merely surviving until dusk, became a defining characteristic of civilization, solidifying the foundational rhythms that underpinned early bureaucratic life. Scribes meticulously tracked these cycles on clay tablets, recording everything from grain yields to mandated work hours. This bureaucratic control over time solidified social stratification. The leisure of the elite contrasted sharply with the measured toil of the laborers, making regulated sleep a powerful tool of governance. The management of rest quickly became more than mere biological necessity. It was incorporated into the very fabric of early spiritual life and statecraft. If waking hours governed labor, nocturnal cycles held the keys to knowledge itself. Dreams were not dismissed as random neurological noise. They were seen as divine transmissions, messages from ancestors or gods, requiring specialized interpretation. Priests and diviners emerged as critical intermediaries, their authority rooted in their ability to navigate the liminal space between sleep and wakefulness. Furthermore, sacred periods of mandated rest became rituals themselves, structuring community life around cycles of deep contemplation. This institutionalization of consciousness, the controlled passage from waking alertness into guided dreaming, provided early authorities with a powerful mechanism for belief formation and social control. It taught them that truth was not merely observed in daylight, but accessed through the regulated surrender to unconscious depths. For instance, early Egyptian embalming rituals mirrored this control, treating sleep as a necessary transition to an afterlife state. This reverence for controlled unconsciousness solidified belief systems that justified hierarchical power structures, linking divine favor directly to ritualized rest and specialized knowledge. The physical architecture of these beliefs found its most intimate expression within the home itself. As societies grew in complexity, so did the need for defined boundaries that extended into the realm of sleep. Archaeological digs reveal a fascinating shift. From communal sleeping arrangements where entire families shared woven mats on packed earth floors to increasingly specialized quarters. The emergence of dedicated private chambers suggests more than just personal comfort. It speaks to a profound restructuring of social life. Physical separation provided not only privacy, but also a visible marker of status and identity. To sleep in one's own contained space signaled a degree of wealth, authority, or ritual importance previously unknown. This architectural development subtly reinforced social stratification. The ability to physically exclude others from one's rest became an early tangible expression of personal autonomy, a foundational element that would shape the very concept of self within civilization. Consider the shift from shared hearths to individual sleeping niches, evidence suggesting evolving gender roles and familial units. These physical boundaries codified new social norms, transforming rest from a collective experience into a highly personalized ritual. The dawn of sophisticated record-keeping presented an entirely different set of cultural demands. Suddenly, the preservation of knowledge, the complex genealogies, astronomical cycles, and agricultural yields required not just memory, but durable systems for storage. This intellectual burden fell heavily upon early scribes and scholars. Developing writing systems and advanced mathematics was a process that demanded sustained wakefulness, an almost continuous state of focused mental labor. The very act of recording history required the subordination of natural rhythms. We see evidence suggesting cultural adaptations that either minimized sleep duration or compartmentalized it with rigid discipline. Sleep, once a simple biological necessity, became viewed through the lens of productivity and vigilance. It was no longer merely rest. It was a resource to be managed, scheduled, and often sacrificed for the sake of civilization's collective memory. Consider the papyrus scrolls themselves. Their meticulous organization speaks to minds kept perpetually alert. This cultural prioritization of wakefulness fostered specialized castes, the professional scholar class whose identity was intrinsically linked to intellectual output. Their vigilance became a cornerstone of societal power, establishing knowledge as the ultimate commodity. This focus on constant alertness didn't just define intellectual life, it shaped the very rhythm of large-scale civilization itself. As empires grew, they needed more than just educated minds, they required predictable bodies. Consider the infrastructure built to manage masses: the Roman baths, the standardized military barracks, or the planned urban grid. These were not merely amenities, they were mechanisms for social control. By centralizing and regulating rest, by dictating when populations slept and when they woke, the ruling class exerted a subtle but profound form of power. Sleep became another commodity, managed alongside grain and water. A predictable cycle ensured labor efficiency and maintained order across vast distances. It was an early, sophisticated form of social engineering, structuring the biological needs of millions to sustain the state machine. The mandated routines, from communal bathing to structured guard shifts, reinforced a collective dependency on imperial scheduling. This temporal discipline was crucial for maintaining cohesion across diverse populations. By controlling the biological clock, empires effectively managed dissent, turning rest itself into an act of civic compliance. The evidence suggests that civilization did not merely accommodate sleep, it actively structured and mandated specific patterns of rest. These fixed cycles, the demarcation between labor and deep repose, were foundational to the very structure of early societies. They allowed for specialization, enabling individuals to dedicate their lives to knowledge accumulation or complex craft, rather than solely subsistence farming. This temporal discipline was not a natural byproduct. It was an organizational necessity that fueled large-scale governance and the storage of cumulative knowledge. Our modern schedules, the 9-to-5 workday, the fixed sleep window, are therefore not arbitrary conventions. They are enduring echoes of this ancient negotiation, the fundamental agreement between human biology and the demands of a complex state. The rhythm of our lives remains deeply tethered to the needs established when humanity first learned to organize time itself. This foundational rhythm shaped everything from urban planning to religious calendars. The predictable cycle of waking, working, and sleeping became the metronome for law, ritual, and trade. It is this disciplined timekeeping, the mastery of the clock, that truly cemented civilization's enduring structure.